Hi everyone, Mrs. Bradshaw here. We're going to continue our learning on volume. So our learning goal is to write expressions and find the volume of rectangular prisms. So let's solve number 1 together. So it says, what are two equations that we could use to represent the volume of the following figure? So I know, based on what we've learned, volume has two equations. We have length times width times height, and we also have volume equals base times height. So using length times width times height, I am just going to plug in my numbers. So volume equals, I need a length times width times height. So I have 9 times 7 times 5. So volume equals 9 times 7 times 5, or volume equals base. So I have to figure out what my base is. In order to find out what my base is, I multiply the length times the width. So I have 9 times 7, 9 times 7. And if I do 9 times 7, I get 63. So I'm going to write that over here. I have 63 times my height. So I have the height is the same thing as layers, so 5 layers. Now what I have to do is I have to figure out what the volume of the figure is using one of these equations. So I'm going to use this equation here to figure out the volume. So 63 times 5, 63 times 5, and you could have used the other equation as if you wanted. 5 times 3 is 15. Put my 5, carry my 1. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31. So I have 315. So what is the volume of the figure? 315. But I'm not done. I need to put a qualifier. A qualifier is a label. So 315 cubic units, or I can put 315 units and then put a 3 for cubed. And then to put it up there as a superscript, I'm going to hit Format, Text, Superscript. I hit the wrong one. Let's try that again. Format, Text, Superscript. Well, for some reason it's not working, but units cubed is what you could write. And then if you wanted to put the superscript on a number, then you would go up there. All right, next problem. I'd like you to pause the video here and try it on your own. All right, let's work through it together. So I know that I have two equations. I have volume equals length times width times height. And I have volume equals base times height. So just plugging in my numbers for my variables, I have volume equals length 5 times width 8 times 4 height. And this could also be 8 times 5 times 4, depending on what you choose to be length and width. And then for my base, volume equals, so I have to figure out what my base is. So I'm going to multiply my length times the width, so 5 times 8, which I know is 40. So my base is 40 times 4. So now I'm just going to choose one of those to figure out which one is the volume. So I'm going to take this one because we used the other one last time. And I'm going to do 5 times 8 times 4. And now I'm going to do 5 times 8, which is 40, times 4. Wait a second. We said 40 times 4 is an equation that we could use. That is because this equation here is just a simpler way to write that one. So 40 times 4. I'm going to bring it over here. 40 times 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 4 is 16. So 100 140, nope, sorry, misspoke, 160 units cubed or 160 cubic units. Either way that you write it is correct. All right. So on this one, it says highlight all the equations that we could use to represent the volume of the following figure. I'd like you to pause the video here and try it on your own. All right, let's solve it together. So I know that volume has two equations, volume equals length times width times height, or volume equals base times height. So going off of that, I know that there could be a couple of different equations here. I know, let's find another text box, that I could have 3 times 7, length times width times height, or I could have the base, remember, find the base, length times width is 21 times 7. Length times width, 21 times 7, height. So I have these two. Let's see if these are over here. All right. It looks like I have 3 times 7 times 7 right here. So this is just saying length times width times height, or width times length times height. So that one looks good. This one here, it looks like they did a width times a height times a length or width. So that one is using the same numbers. So that one is correct. Then I have 14 times 3. Let's think. How could they have gotten 14 by using the length times width times height, or base times height? Well, I know that if I go to solve this, 3 times 7 times 7, 3 times 7 is 21 times 7. 21 times 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. So my volume of this figure is 147 units cubed. So I have to figure out which one of these would equal 147. So let's try 14 times 3. 14 times 3. 4 times 7 is 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So is this one that represents this volume? It does not. I'm going to cross it out. Let's try 49 times 3. 49 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27. Put my 7, carry my 2. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2. So that would be 147. Is that one considered the same volume as this? It is. So I'm going to highlight that, but I want to think, how did they get 49 times 3? Well, this person, it looks like, did the length times the height. So 7 times 7 and got 49, and then multiplied by the width. It still works. 10 times 7. If I do 10 times 7, I get 70. So is that one that it represents this volume? No, it doesn't. So I'm actually going to cross that one out. All right, let's try this one. You guys learned earlier this week in the warm-up that we have to use PEMDAS, PEMDAS, when we are solving problems with different operations. So this one has parentheses. And we know, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, Sally told us that we have to do parentheses first. So 7 times 3 is 21 times 7. Ooh, I know 21 times 7 was my volume equals base times height. And I know that when I do 21 times 7, I'm going to get 147. So 7 times 3 times 7, with the first part in parentheses, does equal 147 units cubed. Let's see, if you notice, this bottom one is the same one that we have over here. So 21 times 7 is our base times height formula. So you should have highlighted them all but 2. All right, let's look at the next problem. So this one does not give us a figure, but it tells us about it. So it says, what is the volume of a figure that is 10 inches wide, 3 inches tall, and 5 inches long? So what we need to know here is wide means the same thing as width. Tall means the same thing as height. Long means the same thing as length. So knowing my formula for volume equals length times width times height, see if you can solve this problem. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, let's solve this together. So volume, plugging in, equals my length, it told me was 5, times my width, the wide was 10, times my height, which it said was tall, was 3. So volume equals 5 times 10, which is 50, times 3. So volume equals, if I know 50 times 3, I'm going to do that over here, 50 times 3, lining it up by the ones place. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. So my answer for volume for this figure is 150 cubic units, or 150 units cubed. All right, I would like you to pause the video and try this one. All right, let's go over it together. A rectangular prism has a width of 9 centimeters, a height of 10 centimeters, and a depth of 5 centimeters. So we can say that depth is length here. What is the volume of the prism? So I know the formula for volume is length times width times height. So volume equals length, we're going to say 5, times a width of 9 times a height of 10. So volume equals, I need to figure out what 5 times 9 is. Well, I know 5 times 9 is 45 because of my math facts, times 10. Volume equals, I know that 45 times 10 is 450. The reason I know this is by my powers of 10. Every time I multiply by a power of 10, the place value of the number we're multiplying by gets bigger by 1 place value. So I'm adding 1 power of 10, or 1 0. So volume equals 450 cubic units, or units cubed.